You're back in Jerusalem now, sort of. Not the chaotic crucifixion week kind, not the version with crowds screaming and Roman boots clanking on stone. This is the quieter Jerusalem, the in-between days, after resurrection but before ascension. It's a strange time. Hope is awake, but not everyone knows what to do with it, and that includes you. Jesus hasn't left yet. He appears and disappears like wind through a curtain. No warning, no schedule. One moment you're folding linens, the next, boom, there. He is beside the fig tree asking if anyone brought honey. He still eats, that part hasn't changed, but there's something different about him. You can't quite look him in the eyes for too long. Like staring at the sun behind thin clouds. You see warmth, but you know it'd blind you if fully revealed. He speaks of power, but not the sword kind. He says you'll receive the Holy Spirit soon, that it's better for him to go so the Spirit can come. That makes no sense to you. You want him, not some invisible force you can't wrap your arms around. Still, he says, wait in the city, wait together, so you do. You and the others, men and women, young and old, crowded into B. A dusty upper room. You pray, you eat, you remember. And then one morning, he leads you out to the Mount of Olives. No grand ceremony, no trumpet fanfare, just sky above, dirt below, and a few dozen people with sandal blisters and puffy eyes. He says words you try to memorize in real time, about going to the ends of the earth, about being witnesses, about not being afraid, and then he's lifted. Not like a magician's trick, not like a balloon on a string. He rises, slow, silent, glowing. Your heart lurches upward with him, and just when the sky swallows him whole, you're left blinking, mouths ajar, wondering if he'll pop back down like before. Spoiler, he doesn't. But here's the odd fact nobody puts on stained glass. An angel appears, not to explain what just happened, but to say, why are you staring into the sky? Seriously, like what else would you be doing? But you get the point. It's time to stop looking up and start moving out. Back in the upper room, something's shifting. You can't quite put your finger on it. It's not fear exactly. More like anticipation, like holding your breath before. The wave hits, 50 days after Passover, Pentecost. That's when it happens. You're in the room, yes you, when the sound starts. A roar, a rush, like a hurricane squeezing through a keyhole. Flames descend, not to burn but to ignite. Little flickers of fire dancing above heads, and suddenly you understand languages you've never studied. Someone next to you shouts praises. In Egyptian you reply, in Greek another joins, in Parthian. It's chaos, holy chaos. You stumble into the street, heart pounding, words tumbling out like waterfalls. People think you're drunk. But oh no, friend. You're alive. Peter, the same Peter who once cursed and ran, stands tall now. He lifts his voice, quotes, "The prophets tells the story straight. Thousands listen and believe, and that's the weird twist of it all. This faith, this fragile thing born in backwater Galilee, it explodes. Not through armies or laws or emperors, but through breakfast tables, prison songs, and fire-tongued nobodies. You're one of them. And guess what? Here's a quirky detail. The early church met in homes, not temples. Their church was a loaf of bread, a pitcher of wine, and someone brave enough to say, let's remember him. That's how movements start, with tables, not thrones, and still, it's not safe. You hear whispers. James was thrown off the temple wall. Stephen, stoned in the streets. The Sanhedrin doesn't like this wildfire. Neither does Rome. You're not just preaching peace anymore, you're living it, and it's costly, but something deeper keeps you going. It's not the miracles, though those are cool. It's not the visions, though they leave your knees weak. It's the presence, that still burning presence that whispers through silence and weeps through joy and never leaves, even when you do. Especially when you do, the same spirit that hovered over waters in Genesis now pulses through you. And that changes everything. You're not just a witness to a story. You are the story now, living gospel, breathing hope, even on days when your faith feels more like a flicker than a flame. So you keep going, not because you're brave, but because you're loved. Not because you know how this ends, but because you know who holds the pen. And tonight, as the moon hangs low and quiet over Jerusalem's rooftops, you lie back, heart full, ears still ringing from the whirlwind of language and flame. You close your eyes and whisper, I'm still here. And deep in the stillness, something sacred replies, so am I. You're still catching your breath from Pentecost, when life throws you a curveball that even the boldest disciple wouldn't expect. It's like thinking you've learned how to swim, then suddenly being pulled under by a riptide you never saw. Coming, Stephen. You've heard about him, the one who speaks like fire, whose faith is so fierce it's almost reckless. He challenges the council, the religious bigwigs, the status quo itself. His words hit like lightning, and though he's just a servant, people listen, but not everyone. Soon enough, Stephen becomes the first to wear a martyr's crown. They drag him outside the city, stones clutched in hands, anger burning in eyes. You don't see it coming until the echoes of his last prayer float back, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. You think, wait, what? Did he just forgive his killers? That's either madness or something divine. That moment changes you. It shakes the foundations you thought were solid. Forgiveness in the face of death? That's not in the handbook. You've been handed and there's a twist. Saul of Tarsus, yes, that Saul is there, watching, holding cloaks, approving. The same Saul who later becomes Paul, the apostle, the missionary, the relentless traveler who writes letters that shape entire centuries. You can't help but wonder if Saul's watching Stephen's forgiveness like a seed planted in rocky soil. But the persecution doesn't stop with Stephen. Suddenly the community scatters. You, along with many others, are forced to leave Jerusalem. Imagine it. Friends turned strangers, familiar streets emptying like sand through fingers. But here's the kicker. The scattering ignites something unexpected. The gospel starts to travel, not just in words but in lives changed. You find yourself in a new town, maybe Antioch, maybe somewhere no one's ever heard of. You meet people who've never seen the inside of a synagogue, people who live under Roman shadows, people who whisper stories about a man named Jesus like a forbidden flame. You tell them everything, not to impress or convert by force, but because you can't stop yourself. The story has taken root in your soul, and it spills out like a river breaking its banks. And here's a little-known fact. The church's first Gentile believers come from this scattering, not the elite or the powerful, but fishermen, merchants, and women who've heard the story and believed. Suddenly, faith isn't just a Jewish thing anymore. It's becoming a global thing. But let's not romanticize the journey too much. Traveling then wasn't like hopping on a plane or sending a quick text. Roads were rough, inns were suspicious, and bandits like to raid the vulnerable. You walk miles with blistered feet and a heart full of hope. You sleep under open skies and pray for safety. Sometimes the loneliness is so thick you swear you could touch it. Yet amid hardship, you discover a deeper truth. Faith isn't about comfort or ease. It's about persistence, about showing up even when your sandals are falling apart. You think back to that time Jesus told you about the mustard seed, that tiny thing growing into the largest of garden plants. You chuckle softly. The seed is planted, all right, and it's growing wild. Historians still debate the exact routes and dates of these missionary journeys, but what you know is this: every step you take is rewriting history. You remember the letter Paul wrote later, telling believers that nothing, not death, not hardship, not even exile, can separate them from the love of God. That promise keeps you going, even when you're cold, tired, and unsure what tomorrow holds. Because deep down, you know, you're part of something bigger than yourself. You're carrying a flame that started with a carpenter's son and now burns across the world. And the best part? You're not alone. The Spirit that came like fire at Pentecost still flickers in your heart, lighting the way through every dark night and dusty road. So, you take another step and then another, not because it's easy, but because it's right, and because love, well, love never quits.